I've just been given the lowdown on the number of countries, some 40, given a green rating, 33 amber. Let's just go over why it's taken so long for the government to announce this when so many people would have been keen to book a holiday and so many airlines and travel companies desperate to get their business back up running.
Well, the very first thing is we wanted to do this in a completely scientific and medical way so we get to grips with exactly what's happening in those countries. And although you can sort of go on a website and you can say, oh, X country has got Y infections and fatalities, it doesn't tell you the whole story about how good their data collection is, about what tests and traces are in place and so on and so forth. So we've worked with the Joint Biosecurity Centre, Public Health England, the Chief Medical Officer, for them to produce lists which are entirely reliable, and that's taken quite a bit of research. But the upshot of that is a list today with over 50 countries and more if you include the territories where people will travel and come back and not have to quarantine for 14 days.
Some of the countries that have been listed, the Spains, France, Germany, Italy, places a lot of people will go on holiday, and we perhaps already have holidays booked that haven't yet been cancelled in this country. But a lot of people think it's a bit bizarre that you introduced a quarantine programme long after we had mass infections in this country, and a quarantine programme for countries which, say, like Portugal, which have had a much lower rate of infection. Do you now regret that decision?
Well, you and I have discussed this more than one occasion. We have. Of course, based on the advice provided by the Chief Medical Officer, who said if you quarantine at the beginning, you find it won't make much difference. And guess what? Northern Italy, America, countries that have, America, you've been able to fly there for a very long time, but of course we know it's reaching there. He said, and it looks like he was right about this, you use a quarantine once you've got it under control in your own country, and by doing so, you prevent reinfection from people coming here or going abroad and coming, and that's why we're doing it, why we've done it now. And then in terms of these countries, as I said, there was quite a process to put in place, it is the case that unfortunately not every country will be on the list, but that's because we still had concerns, and we need to wait until either the data is resolved or obviously the infection rate is lower than the UK. Otherwise, we can't read it.
Do you think this news has come soon enough? And we are heading towards, it's early July, heading towards the school holidays starting. An awful lot of people haven't booked any flights, haven't booked any holidays because they just don't know whether they'd be able to take that holiday. A week in Spain and then 2 weeks sat at home not earning money isn't viable for most people in this country. Do you think that you should have actually done this sooner to help not just ordinary people who might want to try and get a holiday abroad after months and months in lockdown, but also, more crucially, the people who are going to face losing their jobs, the airlines? We've seen Airbus, we've seen EasyJet, Ryanair, BA. Everyone's they're losing jobs left, right and centre. These are real people, real lives who are going to be ruined by losing their jobs. And part of this is down to the fact that they didn't know whether they'd be able to actually have flights in the summer. Shouldn't you have acted sooner?
Well, like all the things in with regard to coronavirus, it's a judgment, isn't it? And what you don't want to do is end up throwing away the very hard-won gains of people having spent, over 3 months at home. And then you don't want to sort of just turn around and go, well, now caution to the wind, we'll allow this travel to take place, no quarantining, and it would have been, frankly, I think, an irresponsible approach. So I'm afraid caution has had to come first, and I know people are very keen in some cases to get away. Other people are going to holiday at home or aren't going away, but I know that it's been frustrating, but it is critically important that we have the right countries on the list. And also I was thinking that we might be able to make the announcement with all 4 nations of the United Kingdom together. The devolved administrations, the Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, still have their own processes to go through. It doesn't come in until the 10th of July, so I'm hopeful they may still introduce it at or around the same time for the whole of the UK.
Could we face a situation where somebody travels from Glasgow to go and get a plane out of the country in, I don't know, Manchester or Newcastle or something, they get a plane out of the country and they return, and they'd actually have to quarantine for 2 weeks if they return to Scotland?
Yes, I mean, that is up to the Scottish Government. So at the moment, that is indeed the case. So you will need to, if you are listening to this and you're in Scotland, you will need to check with what the Scottish Government puts out in the next few days. This is an England measure. I'm very much hoping that they join us, but up to them.
Okay, a lot of people are a bit confused, and I know I am about. I don't personally. I mean, I have any worries. I've got a flights booked. I'm planning to get out of here. I want to go on holiday. I want to see family. But a lot of people are a bit confused that we're having to social distance at work and in public transport here in the UK, and yet we can get on a plane and sit completely right next to someone, not 2 meters apart. Why is it that social distancing rules don't apply on aeroplanes?
Well, we have published detailed guidance for the airlines, and they are following it. And that means, for example, face coverings are being worn. They're not providing food and drink on those flights. There's a lot of precaution in place at airports. I've just heard from Heathrow this morning, who are obviously welcoming this, but stress the measures that they put in place. This isn't really sort of quite life back to normal, I'm afraid. It is a bit more towards normality. And when you get to your destination, you will, of course, have to follow the rules and regulations in place at your destination. And another one of the reasons for taking this very carefully and cautiously is the need to look at how other countries are handling it and to make sure that they're roughly proportionate to what we're doing in the UK when you get to your destination.
Are you planning a summer holiday abroad? Are you happy to get on an aeroplane?
I've been so busy with all of this and much else transport that I'm afraid my mind hasn't turned to holidays as yet. But I would personally get on a plane as long as I was absolutely assured, as of course everyone will be, that the airlines are following the very detailed guidance
that the government's put out. And are you happy to go to the pub tomorrow or go to a restaurant? Extraordinary survey ahead of Super Saturday, and a warning we're going to have from the Prime Minister tonight: don't go crazy, everybody, keep to the rules. But an extraordinary survey showing that only 7% of us want to go to the pub tomorrow and only 3% to restaurants.
I think it's been the message about being cautious and staying at home. I mean, people have absolutely embraced it, and it's one of the reasons why we've got on top of this virus. And it's understandable that people will want to, cautiously start to come out. And I don't know whether I'll go tomorrow, but in the next few days, and I'm sure I will. And particularly if the weather warms up, sit outside, or with new rules in place, you'll be able to go inside, as you know, but it's going to be table service and all that sort of thing. So it will be different, and I understand that people will want to sort of adjust to it, but I think gradually we'll get there, and the Prime Minister will be saying more about this at the press conference later today.
Well, indeed, got the press conference later today. They're no longer daily, and I have to say my 30-year-old is very grateful for that. She's got a bit of her life back when Mum's sitting watching the news every evening. But we're told we're going to have new White House style public press briefings that are going to be televised from now on. Why is the government moving to that style?
Well, we're just thinking sort of actually just of transparency. One of the features of the lockdown, of course, were the press conferences daily, of which I did some of them, and I think that broadly speaking, it enabled the press and some members of the public to ask questions and hear what plans were. These, as you know, lobby briefings actually take place every day, twice a day, in fact. And so this is just a decision to put one of those on camera so the public can see it directly. And it's just great to have that sort of air of transparency, and it will be a welcome innovation in the autumn.
Obviously, there'll have to be someone hosting those press briefings. Any suggestions for who should do that?
Oh, well, you, Julia, obviously.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't take the pay cut.
I don't know, but that is the plan. There'll be somebody hosting them, and I think it will be it's long been done elsewhere, and I think it's a piece of modernisation. Probably something, frankly, that wouldn't have been about had it not been for the experience of all those press conferences during the coronavirus.